at this point, we have mapped out the shape of the chimpanzee face for the mask in the clay. And now the next step will be to just make sure everything sits right in relationship to the how it works with the rest of the face, how the eyebrows, the distance from the eyebrows to the nostril, the distance from the nostril to the mouth, the size of the chin to the muzzle, the width of everything, and then we'll get on to kind of smoothing everything out before we lay down the textures on the face. And what I do is I mentioned this in other videos, but while I'm sculpting this in the clay, I'll pull up I pull up reference images, this kind of stuff, and I'll look at, I'll pull them up from some of the early movies and the television shows, and I'll look at the masks that they made for those movies, and I'll get as many different angles as I can. And then I also want to check my work as I'm doing it from different angles. So what I want to do is I'll turn it, and I'll look at it from one side, and then I'll turn it and I'll look at it from the top, kind of going down. And as of right now, when I look up here and I see this, I realize that there's a bit too much. It's either too much clay on this particular eyebrow, or not enough clay on this particular eyebrow. We're going to come back to that, and then I'll look at it from this side, and then I'll check it from the bottom. But then I'll also do some pretty extreme. I'm lifting this up, and I'm looking down. I'm looking straight from the bottom to the top, and all I can really see is the kind of the muzzle, the sides of the cheeks, and parts of the eyebrow. And what I'm doing here is I'm checking for symmetry on the sculpt, and this actually looks good. And it would be obvious looking from down here if something was off quite a bit, it would be sticking out more on one side or on the other side. So that actually looks really good. And then when I look down here, I realize from the top down that yes, this eyebrow that I talked about before, this is actually bigger than this eyebrow. And not only does it come back this way a little bit more, but it actually sticks up a little bit more. And I know that's hard to see from these angles of these cameras, but when you're sculpting, do this. Look down, look up, look from the side, and keep doing that. Keep checking on all that. And since I did find that this one is smaller, this side of the eyebrow is smaller than this side of the eyebrow, I have two choices at this point. I can either build this one up or take this one down a little bit. And you know what I like on these ape faces, everything is very pronounced. It's over exaggerated. The eyebrows are over exaggerated, and sometimes the expression on the mouth, the way the angles go on the mouth, they're slightly over exaggerated. And so what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of clay right here. I'll shave some off, and I will just pop this on top of here and see if we can get kind of equal amounts of clay from this side to this side. And yeah, that's looking good. And again, what do? I want to check that. I want to check that as I'm doing that, and maybe a little more just kind of on top of here. And you can work rough to begin with, because you can smooth this out later. So I'm just kind of popping chunks of clay on here, and I can already see, yeah, that's already a little bit better. That's actually that's a lot better. So what I'll do is, now that I've kind of got that where I want that to be, I'll sort of smooth that out a little bit, smooth it out, just kind of, I just use my hands. Some people use tools for this. They'll actually use, you know, one of these or this side, and they'll kind of shave a little bit at a time, but I like working with my hands, so kind of do that. And again, I am checking, and I'm double checking on that angle, and that looks good. That looks good. I will look from the side, look through it, look from the side, and I can see that the brow is even as it slopes towards the forehead there on both sides. So got that taken care of. And the next part of this sculpt is, now that I have checked and I have made sure that the eyebrows are exactly where I want them. Well, maybe not exactly, because I do find myself adjusting. Even if it's late into the sculpt, I might learn that okay, this side needs to be adjusted a little bit. And sometimes I'll build stuff up, and sometimes as I'm sculpting I might take a little bit too much off when I'm putting some textures down, and I'll have to readjust that as it goes. So sculpting is always about adapting and paying attention to what you're laying down, and paying attention to the shapes of everything and how they work with each other. But right now everything looks great to me. So what I want to do, I've checked this, and I'm going to start putting the shape of the mouth in here. And when I pulled up some chimpanzee masks and images from the original TV show and the original movies, one of the things I always liked about the Cornelius character, even Zira or any of the other masks, was that they always had this really cool shape in the front, and it kind of came down and around in the front of the mouth, came down a little bit, and it kind of goes back up at an angle, kind of down towards the chin, the line of the mouth down towards the side of the chin, and then sort of back up towards where the eyeballs, and it almost looks a little bit like almost like a bit of a smirk or a smile. So what I'll do is, I've got all these cool tools, but I tend to, when I'm doing stuff like this, I work with sort of non-conventional stuff, and this is a paintbrush, the handle of a paintbrush where the paintbrush broke off, and I use this constantly. And I find out for things like mouths and stuff like that, this is perfect for me to go in here and sort of sculpt out this mouth section right here. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of going down and I'm just approximating that. But now, if you see what just happened there, the mouth kind of came up and it went down, and he's sort of smirking. A bit of a smile, bit of a scowl. Same thing on the other side over here. I'll kind of go down, and then I'll bring that back up. Down and up, down and up. And there we go. We've got that sort of smirk right there. And that's exactly where I want that to be. I'm looking at that. Again, check from different angles, and then we'll fine-tune this down the road, but I'm just getting the basic shape of that mouth right there, and that looks good from the front. And then I want to start giving a little bit more shape to the nostrils, and I have two choices. How big do I want these nostrils to be? And if I pull up this reference photo right here, I look and I see that this handle of the paintbrush might be a little bit too small. I'll start out with this, and if it goes too big, I can always bring it back a little bit. But these tend to kind of go from the center and flare out a little bit. So I'm gonna angle this right here, and I'm just gonna push that in a little bit. Did you see how I did that? And then I'm gonna angle the other nostril off that way. and I'm going to push that in just a little bit. And there we go. There we have it. Those are the basic tiny little shapes of that. Actually, that's exactly what I want that to be. So at this point, I've checked everything. I've checked the shapes of the face. I've laid down the basic foundation for the mouth, and then we kind of sculpted out the inside of the nostrils a little bit. So at this point, all that's left on this part of the sculpting is to just, I'm going to start smoothing everything out, and this is what we do. Is this prepares it for laying down the skin textures after we get this all smoothed out. So what I'll do is I just kind of come in here, and again, sometimes people will they'll use tools to do this, but I just use my hands and my thumbs and my fingers. And if you see this is kind of rough up here, and I just take my time, and we'll just do this eyebrow to begin with, and I just take my time and I just start smoothing this eyebrow out. And it's real subtle how I do this. I'm not really applying a whole lot of pressure here. And at this point, it doesn't have to be completely perfect, and because I'm going to be laying some textures down and some wrinkles and that kind of stuff down the road. But if you see this, I am just smoothing that eyebrow out like that. I'll turn this so that I can see this a little bit better from the top. And I am, see, there's kind of, there's crevices in there. And I am just kind of, and I can push down, and then I can pull the clay to the side. Push down, pull the clay to the side. Do you see that? Push down, pull the clay to the side. Push down, and I just keep doing that. And it's kind of a, this part of the sculpt, now that I don't, and I, you know, I'm not really, I don't have to think about this too much. This part of the sculpt is completely, absolutely meditative to me. And I am just smoothing the surface of the skin on the eyebrow. And you see that? I am taking my time, and I'm work in small sections. When you're doing this, work in small sections, and you know, don't get ahead of the sculpt. Don't try to bounce around and go over here and over here and over here. I find that if I just focus on a small patch at one time, that, hey, things go more smoothly. Yeah. Literally. So I am just smoothing, and you know, I am gonna, so you don't watch me do this for the next however long it takes. I don't know how long it's gonna take me, but I'm gonna speed up the video. I might even you know, stop it and cut in after this is done, and we'll go from there. So this is where we want to be after we've smoothed out the face section. And this doesn't have to be, we're not going for a glass-like texture, because real skin, if you look at your skin, has bumps, and it has tiny little divots and sometimes scarring and that kind of stuff. And what we're going for is just a realistic smoothing. If you look, I've drawn a line around the mask right here. Look what's below the line where we started out, and look what's above the line. That's a big difference. Now, this is kind of stark gray, and it shows every little imperfection, but later on in the, as we're building this mask, after we've cast it in latex, I'll have added some wrinkles and some lines and some other textures onto the skin. And after that's been added and everything's in latex, and this thing finally starts to get painted, we're going to be painting in different tones of skin colors, different skin tones. And this tiny little kind of imperfections, that'll work to our advantage to make this look like realistic skin. And let's talk about this line also. I drew this as a reference for everybody to see what's below and what's above the line, the difference from where we started. But this line is always on all these masks that I build, and the reason is this is all we need to really work on here for the most part when we're doing skin. Everything from even up to here, this is all going to be hair coming out from the sides of the lower jaw and even into the muzzle. This is going to be hair coming, and the hair is going to kind of come around here. Everything out there is going to be covered in hair. And depending on who I'm making this for, and depending on the size of the face, or you know, we all have different shapes and sizes to our faces. Depending on the person, I may have to cut some of this as what we'll call flashing. I'll have to cut this up a little bit. Sometimes I'll leave this here for a larger person, and the smaller person, I may bring it all the way up to here. If you look at this mask that's already been cast, this started out with all this extra material on here, and even when it was cast, it was probably all the way down to there. And I simply cut that back, and we'll be putting hair all the way into here eventually on this gorilla face. But this is where we want to be right now, and stay tuned for the next part of our video series where we're going to be laying down the textures on the chimpanzee's face. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.